Hi, this is your Sapil Bhartia and welcome to TFR Let's Talk. Today we have with us Jake Hoffner, co-founder of Qualified and Senior Director of Product Management at Andela. Jake, it's great to have you on the show.
Nice, Waltnell. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to host you here today. And this is the first time, not only you and I are talking, actually I'm talking to someone from Andela for the first time. And you moved to Andela after the acquisition, so there are a lot to talk about. So first of all, I would like to tell our viewers, what is Andela all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Andela is a global marketplace for talent looking for tech jobs, and it qualified. It was recently acquired by Andela last year. It was a company I co-founded, and we focus on building developer assessments that can be taken anywhere in the world.
How do you look at the job market today?
I think the job market is challenging. It's definitely challenging. And I think the world is starting to learn what to do about after COVID. I think COVID kind of threw the whole world out of whack in terms of what expectations were. I think a lot of companies thought they were going to be hit hard by it, and then they actually weren't, and they actually scaled, and then maybe they scaled too quickly. And I think others were hit hard by it. But I think the market is also very, very resilient. Clearly, with AI coming, I think there's a lot of concern around how that might impact jobs, but we believe it's actually going to increase jobs. And the need for everyone to adapt and grow and incorporate these technologies is actually going to bring a whole new spurt of development activity.
Now let's also talk about when it comes to hiring. The whole process is. Talk a bit about what role Andela plays there. What kind of customer base are you targeting?
Yeah, so Andela is really focused on a global marketplace. So, we believe brilliance is distributed, but opportunity is not. And especially in a post-COVID world, the world has gone more global. Companies are looking to find talent anywhere. I think remote hiring has become much more comfortable to a lot of companies, and so that's expanded the realm of where companies are willing to look for talent. We see ourselves being in the center of that, being able to make those matches. It's a very hard thing. One of the issues with hiring is there's so much signal that's coming in, so many people who want that job or where you want to find that job. Now, if you go to a global workforce, you're increasing that signal. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to match talent to the right jobs, but also help companies find the right talent. And so that requires a lot of effort and a lot of technology and a lot of data collection to understand where the right signal is to send the people on the right path. But we want to facilitate those connections as well as possible.
How has the hiring process changed over years, and which also means that the tools, the processes, who you are interacting with is also changing?
I think the opportunities of different paths you can take to find a job have increased. Obviously, there's a constantly increasing number of services. I think one of the things that in software engineering is that building out a network doesn't really come conducive to that role and as where it is with other roles. If you're in a sales position or if you're like in a product position, you might be building out a network a little bit more on LinkedIn. I think engineers are not so much constantly building that network on LinkedIn. I think developing that skill has become more important. But this is also an area where companies like Andela are coming in and trying to actually bridge that gap and make that easier, because it really is a very painful process to have to navigate those. And the more that you can join a network where they can Andela's basically acting like an agent, right? We're helping to understand what your needs are and make that match for you.
Now let's talk about the tools, the processes that you have to help not only the hiring managers but also candidates. First of all, for hiring managers to know the talent, the skill, and for the talent to show the skills they have.
Tech skills are always kind of top of mind, and I think I've never met anybody who's hired an engineer who didn't want to see them code, and that's always super important, right? And that's like top thing is, can you see that? And that's the kind of a reality. Even if someone has 10 years of experience or more, the resume is not enough. They actually want to see it. There's a lot of people who've spent a lot of time in this space and who maybe gotten away from coding, or maybe that's not their strength, and that's an area that companies really want to see. But they also want to see strong problem solving skills, and they also really want to see how well do they collaborate, how well do they work to others, how well do they challenge ideas, how well do they come up with the best solutions, not necessarily the most technical. Maybe there's different approaches that can be taken. I think the market's getting away from just wanting to see people who you give them a task and they stick their head down and they code on it. They want to start to see more critical thinking around what is the best approach we should be taking on a problem.
And how does Andela enable that so that they can actually see the coding skills that the potential candidate may have?
Our coding playback feature is the first thing that we've launched as part of the integration between Qualified and Andela. And that feature allows you to see the thought process in an assessment. So when a candidate is taking an assessment, they're able to take it on their own terms, and they're able to think through the problem comfortably in their own home without kind of the awkwardness of a hiring manager kind of watching them. And then from that, they can kind of we have them take what we call a real world coding challenge, right? This is like a work sample. This isn't some computer science theory. Let's actually work on something that's more practical. That's going to be done on the job. And then by seeing them actually work through that problem, that helps understand some of those thought processes and how they maybe react to things. And it's not just the coding as well. So we also oftentimes will ask for them, we will follow up on the result. Why did you take this approach? Why did you take another approach? There might be design questions, architectural questions. We've asked you to do it this way to complete the challenge. How else might you do this? We really want to understand and use that sample kind of like almost like a developer portfolio, if you think about it. If you think about hiring a designer, it's a lot easier. You can just look at their work and say, I like it, I don't like it. If you could try to hire an engineer, where are you going to go to? Maybe you go to GitHub, but you're not going to get a consistent read from that. And I think it's a hard science to make that work. But if you can take an assessment and have everyone take the same assessment, and you're really able to compare, okay, did this person really think thoughtfully about this? And as you notice that over multiple candidates, you really understand who really is thoughtful and serious about their work, and how well they think about all the edge cases, how well they think about attention to detail. You can see that come out of the assessment. It's not just a score.
And also, there are a lot of, especially these days, it has always been the case, but there are specialized fields, or a company come up with a totally new, example, would be Tesla or SpaceX or Starlink. These are not the traditional companies, so the skill set is needed is also not very well established. Just coding is part of that. So how does Andela also enable these kind of, when companies are way too innovative, way too ahead of the time, so they cannot even see that kind of work, as you said, designer, you can go and see the work, but so how does that work there?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because if you think about it, I mean, you can't create an assessment to model every activity, especially if real innovation's going on. But the way we think about it is there's a foundational aspect of that, and you really want to understand, do they have the right foundations? Because if that company is building something that hasn't really been done before, then the only thing anyone really has to draw on is those foundations themselves. So the more that we can get into that and show that those foundations are there, the better. And the other thing too is how well do people overcome obstacles. And so giving them something where you actually have to kind of, bash your head against it a little bit to get through it, which is the job of software development when you think about it. It's just every day there's new challenges you have to come against. So overcoming those challenges, seeing that somebody has the right foundations in place, and when they're given something that's challenging, they don't quit, but they find a way through it, is ultimately what a hiring manager is looking for, especially in an environment where there's a lot of innovation happening. And there's no script that you can, there's no formula you can follow. You're going to have to figure it out as you go along, and we want to make sure they see the skills to be able to see that and adapt them as necessary.
Last year, you folks launched the Andela Talent Cloud Platform. Talk a bit about what role it's playing in the overall approach that you folks have, and to help hiring managers and candidates.
So the talent platform, or the Andela Talent Cloud, is really it's meant to help companies both self-serve and find talent using our system, as well as working with our dedicated matchers who can help them really hone in on what they're looking for. It's a platform as well for talent. When they join the platform, you're not just joining a site, you're becoming part of a network. And the goal of the platform is to really minimize the amount of reassessing that has to happen, which is honestly a personal pet peeve of mine. And it's kind of the holy grail of what we're looking for is, can you if you think about today, every input is the same output, right? So every job you apply to, you have to go and take an assessment, and you have to go do maybe hours of work for that assessing process. If we can make it where we assess you once and then companies trust us in that process and are able to at least take away some significant steps in their process so that you don't have to do that over again, then we're making it possible for talent to consider their options across multiple jobs without having to do that work over and over and over again.
Is there any kind of integration that you folks offer with other, enterprise focused social media platforms like either LinkedIn or Stack Overflow or a lot of other platforms where most of the developers, coders hang out?
We don't integrate with LinkedIn. Unfortunately, we would love to, but there's not a lot of integration options with that platform. I think with GitHub, we certainly encourage including building out profiles. So we actually work with engineers to help cultivate their profile and make sure that it's as strong as possible. And we like to bring out projects. We like to bring out any GitHub activity, like to surface that to the top and work with that to make that more presentable. And then the Andela Talent Cloud helps to facilitate that, obviously, where you're able to get that profile in front of many companies. In terms of Stack Overflow, if there's something there, like if somebody has a really strong Stack Overflow profile, it's a perfect example of something that we'd want to showcase on their profile.
When we look at the market, there are two challenges that we see often. One is to get new talent. And second is that as the market is evolving new technology, you have to train your new talent at the same time. So it's retrain and retain so that they don't leave, So does Andela play any role in sustainability once you have this workforce, or no? The Andela's role is purely at hiring new people.
No, that's a great question. Actually, Andela's roots. So they actually we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and where Andela's roots started was actually we went into Africa and started retraining creating training programs in that country to help train. I think Andela's trained over 100,000 engineers at this point. And those roots have stuck with us. So now that we're mainly focused on hiring, we still have that upskilling DNA inside of us. So if once someone joins our network, we actually work with them and help cultivate their skills. So if there's an area in their career that they want to progress to, or if we see that there's an area where they need to kind of upskill in order to get more opportunities, we work with them. We have internal upskilling programs that helps them upskill in those technologies. And a perfect example of that is with AI. So we're starting to roll out new programs to help upskill into some of the new AI skills that are becoming more in demand.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue because I was going to ask, that what kind of impact are you seeing of AI and Gen AI when it comes to this market?
It's a great question. I think it's on everyone's mind right now. I think the whole world is spinning to figure out what to do with AI. I think from a product perspective, you see a lot of people kind of bolting on AI features everywhere they can, and I think there's a lot of a frenzy around that. Internally, what we've seen is a lot of people a lot of companies looking for ML and AI specific skills. Really, when it comes to building out their own models, I think there's a lot of companies are trying to play catch up or being inspired by what's happening and trying to move in that direction. But I think what we're also seeing is the need for people to understand the abstraction. So it's not just, you don't need to be an AI engineer, you don't need to know machine learning to necessarily be in this space. I think as every product is looking to incorporate this, you're looking to work with kind of the abstractions, different LLMs, different APIs. And we're starting to see a lot more demand around that as well. And I think that's something that we'll continue to see a lot of.
Are you also seeing any fear in the market that folks are worried that, hey, Gen AI is going to replace our jobs, or the reality is that Gen AI will actually enable you to do more things, even get better salary because, it will take a lot of lower level jobs, but you will be working on the cream. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can certainly give you my thoughts. I think the jury's out and we're all kind of holding our breath and seeing in a certain extent. But we believe that that we're going to see more activity. I mean, one of the analogies I use is no code tools could have killed engineering. Did it? No, not really. It just made it possible for founders to kind of start on ideas faster and play with some ideas. It made internal projects a little bit faster. It didn't take tech jobs away. I think there's never really a point in time in I think in humanity where we go, yeah, this is enough. We're going to stop here. We always tend to we all want to go further and further and further. We're always going to need engineers to take it further and further and further. The AI is not going to is not likely to push us in that direction. It's likely to make us much more effective and much more efficient, and we'll be able to do more. But we're just going to want to go and do more with that efficiency.
There are other job markets, there are places like Upwork as well. How different is Andela from them?
Andela is a private marketplace as opposed to the public marketplaces that like Upwork would fall into. So what that means is in order to make it into the network, you have to go through a pretty stringent vetting process. And what we're doing is we're looking to make sure that the talent in our network is a good fit for the companies that are hiring within that space. We only hire for technologists, so other platforms might be also more broad into sort of what they're looking for and the way that they match across jobs, whereas we're much more focused. And we also match, so it's not just companies finding talent on their own. We actually have a lot of technology and a lot of a process built around making sure that we're actually matching talent to the right roles.
Jake, thank you so much for joining me today. And, of course, talk about Andela. It's great to learn about the company. Great insights there. Thanks for all those insights. And I look forward to chat with you again. Thank you.
I do as well. Thank you, Saltmal. It's great to be here.